In this video, I'm going to introduce and discuss what a dynamic job is and how to use it in Impulse Sync. So firstly, what we'll see here, if we look at our manual, we'll see the dynamic storage path option that is a common job option for our various jobs in Impulse Sync. Now this is specifically only supported with source connectors that use the query option, but what it allows you to do is dynamically create a query to query the system for content to pick up. Now, dynamically means that we actually need to make use of a manipulator here, our dynamic job store manipulator, to first store values into our storage to then search for and use to set our queries appropriately dynamically. So this job option is actually two things working in tandem. One, it is our job store manipulator, our dynamic job store manipulator, to actually pick up values and store those values for usage in dynamic jobs. And then it's the actual job that needs its query value updated dynamically, which will take those stored values, update the query value for each stored value, and send the query to the system to pick up the appropriate content. Now, looking at examples real quickly of how this would look like in the UI, what we'll see here is we have this populate dynamic store job, and we'll see that it is set up to really not deliver any content, but instead we do have these two manipulators, dynamic job store manipulator, where this job will run, and when these manipulators fire, we're going to store our dynamic values with our key value pairs here using a liquid template, for instance, to store an ID of a piece of content that we want to migrate over specifically, or some assets taken from an HTML body where we want to grab the image source value for each image in the HTML, and we want to pick up the assets that are being referenced by this HTML body. Here we have our storage value key pair as well as our storage path. Now this storage path will actually be referenced in a future job to determine what dynamic values to use. So if we were to look at this job, dynamic asset pickup body, we'll notice that in our source, we will have our query option has that replace query value and the dynamic storage path value, showing how we're able to pick up dynamic values from the file name path, and each file name stored will then replace this section of the query. And similarly, we will have the same in, for instance, our dynamic asset featured image job, where we make use of a different dynamic storage path, file ID instead of file name, and our query is adjusted appropriately to pick up the assets that we're interested in. So using these two jobs together, we'll actually be putting them in a pipeline and running them together to first populate our dynamic storage with the values appropriate, and then dynamically pick up the assets that we request based on our dynamic storage.